Hi there. Let's talk about ZIM, the dividend yield you get and the tax you have to pay. If you look right now, ZIM, the market cap of ZIM is about $2.1 billion and the price about $18 per share. And if you look at the dividend history of ZIM per share over the last 4 to 5 years, you will see quite some interesting things. In 2021, the dividend yield was about $4.50. And also look at the stock price here. $18 right now, right? 2022, $27.55. So more than the current stock price. 2023, $6.40. 2024, $4.81. And 2025, the first half, close to $4 per share. And if you add all those dividends over the last 4-5 years, you can see that you could have made more than the current stock price of about $18 per share. Especially in 2022, when the dividend per share was over $27 per share. Now, on this dividend, you also have to pay some taxes. And you have to be aware of Israeli dividend tax, which is between 40% and 25%. For instance, if you get $100 in dividends from ZIM, you might pay $25 in taxes or $30. And how do you know if you pay 25 or 40? Well, here is the answer. If you own 10% of ZIM or more than 10%, you will pay 30%. This means $40 on these $100 in dividends. If you own less than 10%, then you pay a dividend tax around 25%. Now, you also have to be aware that there are some reduced tax rates for different countries. And for instance, in this example, I'll give you the US. The US-Israel tax treaty. Here is the thing. If your country has a tax treaty with Israel, you might pay lower taxes. For instance, for US, if you own more than 10% or 10% of ZIM, you can pay 12.5% in taxes, dividend tax. So that will be much lower than this rate of 25% or 40%. This is quite a lot. Now, if you own less than 10% of ZIM, then you will pay 25% in dividend tax. And this is the treaty that you have. Your country, the US, with Israel. Now, if you live in another country, for instance, in Europe, in Germany, your final tax may be higher. It also depends how much you own. Depends on the treaty that your country has with Israel. So you have to research your country with Israel and see the tax treaty if you have one. Now, to help you here, and of course, you also have to ask your broker, because you have to fill some paper, some forms to get this reduction. For instance, if you own more than 10% or 10% of ZIM, you also have to fill some paper, submit some forms, and then you'll get access to this reduction. And better ask your broker. Ask your broker if your country has a tax treaty with Israel. And if it has, then you can submit your forms. Of course, you also have to do your own research. Don't rely only on your broker. Now, besides this 25% for the US, you also have to be aware of federal income tax, which might be 0, 15, or 20% on top of this 25%. So be very careful here. And here is how to benefit from this. For instance, if you get $100 in dividends from ZIM, you get $75 per share. and $25 in taxes, right? But you can get rid of this federal income tax if you report the dividend you get from ZIM, $100, as dividend income, and then you claim $25 foreign tax credit. Because once you paid $25 in Israel, you can claim this foreign tax credit. And will deduct from this federal income tax, and you no longer have to pay these taxes, depending on your brackets. So overall, the dividend tax for common investors for the US is about 25%. Now, if you own more than 10% of ZIM, or equal 10% of ZIM, then you can have this reduction to pay only 12.5%. And then you have to see this federal income tax, your brackets. You can also deduct this 12.5%, and then you'll pay what's left. For instance, 2.5% in this case, and 7.5% for this case. So you have to see. I don't think you are a millionaire, because if you are, you no longer waste your time watching my video. So in this case, I think most of us are in this scenario, 25% dividend tax rate. So that's it for this video, and if you have other questions, please let me know in the comments.